Hey, kia ora koutou whānau, ki te piha koe. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News Streamlined, not broadcast, live on YouTube. Hey man, how are you?
Still banished in the Shadowlands.
Yeah, look, I'm a little bit. I am 5% pissy, 5% because disagreements and all that. Because I had a deal, as people know, we've talked about it, and the deal was two parts. And the deal was we agree not to live stream your debate. Well, actually, it was two parts. They said we will remove your strikes if you don't live stream our debates, and I said I will not live stream your debates if you remove our strikes. So it was kind of two parts, right? So we didn't live stream the debates. They've applied to have the strikes removed, but they're not removed yet. So when I say I'm a little bit pissy, I'm a little bit pissy because, I mean, we didn't have to get put in this situation to start with, disagreement, but they've done all they can now that we're in it, but it hasn't been released for tonight. So at the end of tonight's show, I'm going to write to the YouTube copyright people. I can't really do anything, but just to go, hey, guys, let me know. We need to figure this out ASAP, yada, yada, yada. And so I'm hoping, fingers crossed, two things. Fingers crossed, we're on YouTube for Saturday night. The second thing is I was just testing Discord before we came on. We've got a bit of a... Remember the last time I tried to use Discord and people couldn't hear it, only you and me could hear it, Chewy, and it sounded fine to us. We had a bit of a test of that today and we haven't seemed to work out the glitches yet, but Superman, otherwise known as Jason, is possibly going to pop over tomorrow and we'll see if we can work that bug out. And if we can work that bug out, because I thought Discord for Saturday night could be freaking awesome, Chewy. If we're all watching the results together, getting people to Discord in and have their thoughts and stuff. So I'll attempt to get Discord up and running for Saturday night. I hope, I sound like a bit of I don't really know what's going on, do I? I hope that we've got YouTube back for Saturday night, sorry. But for now, this is us. We're here and we love you all very, very much. So I feel like because we don't have YouTube, we're kind of your stepdaddies tonight. And when we get back to YouTube, we'll be back to being regular daddies. But this is our go for tonight. Not quite as good as normal daddy, but an okay secondary choice to watch us on some other platforms. Although I did notice today that when we finished this episode live streaming it, I uploaded it to YouTube. It had probably the same number of views as we were getting if you add the two things together, and got double the people watching us on Twitter. And so we're still getting, I think we're probably still getting the same number of eyes. It's just a bit of a headache having to do all this chasing around. Hey, before we get into stuff, I want to say a huge thank you to all our patrons because you guys keep us in electric Porsches. Thanks, like Matchbox ones. And because we've had several people that looks very different, I know, because we had several people sort of sign up and join up. Gareth Hodson moved himself up from, I think, fuel level to super patron. Tim and Caleb B joined in there as well into becoming patrons as well. So they're on the board now. And we just had someone sign up today, which I haven't had a chance to get onto the billboard yet. But let me say Chris as well. Chris has signed up to be a fuel level patron. So thanks so much, you guys. Really do appreciate it. And you guys genuinely help what we do and help us, for all the stuff we pay for to put this out there to you guys. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, sorry, Terry.
You joke, Pat, but because of the very kind patrons, I was able to go out and buy my very first Tesla. This is news. I haven't told you this, have I?
Well, I booked my first class trip as well to Hawaii.
I got a Tesla. I got my wee Tesla.
Oh, very cool.
There you go. So thank you very much.
Very good. Well done, guys. Look, I don't have actually, I normally have 40 tabs open each night and I plan it and I know exactly where we're going. And I just kind of think there's obviously the debate to go over. And then there's a bunch of stories that were out tonight. Where the heck is my thing going? I've lost me altogether. Is that one? Yes, that one. All right, got it, I think. A bunch of stories as well that were in the news tonight, like can Winston be trusted? Some more poll results, yada, yada, yada. And I thought we'd just hang out for tonight and talk about the election and talk about what's going on and what's coming up. And but why don't we start, Chewy, with sort of first thoughts around the debate. I watched the debate. I was tweeting about it. You watched the debate. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people who are joining us now obviously watched the debate. What are your initial thoughts?
It's a weird mixture. It really is a weird mixture. Like I think Luxon was unsettled. Like he didn't seem comfortable, which is a place that I love to see him. And I think tonight he really showed when he was pushed off his bumper stickers, off the slogans. They were really holding a torch to him of like, no, answer your questions. I think I heard one comment from Hipkins saying that's a lot of words for no answer, and that's absolutely it. I think Chippy got mad. Chippy knew what hits were landing, and he kept on coming back to it. Um, the line of like, maybe you should look after your own house. At least my MPs don't beat up kids with.
Yep, we'll play that one for sure.
Off the couch
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's I did like seeing a bit of fight in Chris Hipkins, but at the same time, the same disappointments are there of like, you let him run with these lies for so long before somebody else showed them to you.
Yeah.
You absolutely are still sticking to your guns on capital gains tax and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
There was, I think, a missed opportunity to sort of go, well, at least we can work with our coalition partners.
Yeah.
I think that was quite notable in its absence.
Yep.
And just because of, I guess, moderation, there were a few chances to challenge some of Luxon's attack lines that just went begging. Like the one that screamed out at me is that housing under Labor has been an unmitigated disaster, which objectively it hasn't. Like the only part of that you can say that is true is Kiwi Build didn't do what it was supposed to do, but they have made that up with a truly epic amount of public housing projects in the last couple of terms.
Yeah, I think Chippy did real well. I would definitely give the win to him tonight. I know
that easy
win to Chippy. I think that there was a lot of good points landed. I don't want to be negative on the performance because from a debate point of view, it was a good performance, but I don't want to say it's too little too late, because it's not, because as we know, it's a margin of error election at the moment. According to the polls, a lot of people are saying the polls are wrong and it's going to be a whitewash to the right. I mean, that may or may not be the case, but at the moment, according to the polls, it's a margin of error election. So it's not over, but as you were saying, I do wish these things had been coming up before. So for the first time ever in pretty much this whole election cycle, and I've seen a lot, I might not have seen all of it, but I've seen a lot. Fucking Chippy was like, we had the world's best response to COVID. It's the first time I've heard those words coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
I may have missed it. I may have missed it, right? But we've been saying since day one, why are you shying away from this? Yes, there's going to be a bunch of people who don't like the mandate word or the vaccine word or the whatever. They're not going to vote for you anyway. Why aren't you reminding people what research has just shown us about 20,000 lives that were saved and the best in New Zealand, best in the world?
So, yeah, absolutely. Stop straying away from a massively popular response.
Play into your strengths, because there were some things from COVID that did impact New Zealand, like inflation, like Kiwi Build. I mean, the building, I was going to say industry, kind of shut down for a year. Jib wasn't available for about 4 or 5 months of the year. So you got to take those lumps because of COVID, but I haven't heard at any stage the massive benefits. My dog's just snoring. That benefits as in what they did well in COVID. So it's like they had to take the lumps for it, but they've never sold how well they did. Like, I'm sure he said it other times, but tonight was the first time I've heard him say it on a big stage as bluntly as that, like owning it and saying, yes, we'll take that. We're best in the world. So, yeah, I think he did really well. It was a really good debate, but it was slightly frustrating as well, thinking, and as I said last night, maybe if there was another month, who knows? It wouldn't be as close as it's going to be, but it's going to be close. We are talking about the election, not the All Blacks game, eh? I forgot in my head which one we're talking about.
Definitely definitely
Okay.
politics, Pat.
Sorry.
Why would we talk about sport, you absolute unhinged madman?
So I have got some clips. Let's do some clips, eh? And I'm going to use some of the TVNZ pre-cut clips because actually the things I wrote down were who do you trust more? I also wrote down quickfire questions, and they were 2 clips that had already been cut by TVNZ. So we'll use their clips, and then we'll have a look at a little interaction around cutting benefits, and that's going to come from their stream. So let's jump in and have a look. We've tested the sound, haven't we? I wasn't quite sure about this.
Yeah.
This is the very start of the debate. Them talking about trust and trusting leaders, and I'm actually quite surprised at one of the results that their poll showed up. Let's have a look.
Straight into it with a question from our latest One News Varian poll, and it goes to the heart of what people want to know. Who do you trust more? 43% say Chris Hipkins,
Yes.
while only 33% trust Christopher Luxon more.
Interesting and really fascinating this as well, because Luxon is ahead in one of the major preferred prime ministers, like by a point, and they're neck and neck in another one. So it's basically they're equal on preferred prime minister, but that's a pretty big disparity. You know, what is that? 4 and 10, 3 and 10. You know, 10, 15, well, it's 10%. It's 10% difference of trust. And obviously there are going to be some people in there that cross over that may both trust Hipkins and Luxon. But that's still telling, and that's telling, I guess, based around tax, not answering questions, not being relatable, this whole "we don't know you" thing. I thought that was really telling. What are you thinking, Chewy?
Yeah, look, 33% trust Luxon more. Are they drunk?
No, but it doesn't mean they don't trust Hipkins. Remember, because you might say I trust Hipkins and I trust Luxon. So this could be unless they gave them the binary of which one out of these 2 do you trust more. But it does say who do you trust more. So I guess it is a binary. Yeah, I guess so. It's a binary. Yep. Yeah, but it's I'm fascinated by this result because there could be a blue prime minister in a week's time, couple of weeks, 8 weeks, if Winston's got anything to do with it. And I don't know how many times the less trusted nominee would end up being prime minister. I think that's a fascinating look, actually. So we'll just keep going.
Well, I seem to remember you going like there's never been a party that's won an election without having most preferred prime minister, and I've held that in my brain, and then right down to the week we're like, oh, now we're neck and neck, and I'm like, fuck, I haven't even got that to fall back on. Unfair.
I think what I said with that is most of the time. I don't want to know. I don't quite know what happened in 2017 because 2017, Labor kind of pipped it away from National, who've had a bigger party because of Winston. So I'm not sure about that. But the trend is mostly the preferred prime minister becomes the prime minister. Let's keep going on the story about trust.
And almost a quarter didn't want to back either. So Christopher Luxon, I'll start off with you. 33% of people trust you more. Is that an upsetting number for you?
Well,
Yes.
look, New Zealanders know that I've got real-world leadership experience, that I've come to this job over the last 2.5 years because I actually believe in New Zealand. I want it to do better. I've spent my whole career actually solving problems, getting things done, turning things around. And that's what New Zealand needs right now. That's exactly what I'm going to bring.
Isn't trust important, though?
Trust is important, and I'll continue to earn the trust of New Zealanders by actually following through and doing what I say and delivering results and outcomes for them. That's what New Zealand needs right now. There's been too much talk, too much going backwards. We need to go forwards with positivity, ambition, aspiration.
Word salad, word
Positivity.
salad, word salad, word salad.
Chris Hipkins, 43%
Positivity
of
from
people
Luxon.
trust you. What do you make of that figure? That's not even half.
You don't earn
Unbelievable.
people's trust just with a whole lot of slogans with no substance behind them. You earn people's
Boom.
trust by getting out there, being upfront and honest with them every day. I know that there's no such thing as a perfect government, and there'll be days when things don't go according to plan. I will always own that. I will always front up. I will always try and answer people's questions. And so I think that is why people do trust me more than they trust him.
Trust him, that guy over there. Now, something else that was in the clip that I would have played, the longer clip, was who would you trust more to grow the economy or lead the economy? And yeah, that's not in here. It's in the actual thing. And National had about a 10% lead from memory over Labor, and I was just like, gosh, who do you trust more in the coalition? I think maybe that was the Maybe that was the question. And it was national over national, that three-headed thing over the other three-headed thing. I'm thinking, like, gosh, has these people not even been watching what's been going on? Have you not seen that you can trust that that group would stay together versus what's on the left? I thought that was an interesting, it makes me think, I wonder who was polled, Chewy?
Yeah, look, I think that's the danger for people like us, though, right? As it seems obvious because we look at it so much. But there's the people that aren't following it as closely, and they will cling to like the persuasive narrative that national is better for the economy, national is better for the rural sector. We know that that's not true. We can track down graphs that'll show that historically not to be true, going back 30 years.
Yeah.
But it's a persuasive myth that sticks in people's heads, and they will keep repeating it. We're the only party of law and order. We're the only party of the economy. We're the only party that will bridge the urban-rural divide with something. Like, I heard pretty much all of those things tonight.
Yeah.
Like, when they talked about how divided our country was and how were you going to bring us back together. The only thing that Luxon mentioned was the urban-rural divide. He wasn't mentioning the other things, the racial divides, the COVID divide, all of that sort of thing. So, and as far as I see it, there's only one party that's stoking that urban-rural divide. There's only one party that's doing it. So, yeah.
But it's interesting, right? From a marketing point of view, they're doing it by saying the other guys are doing it. Yeah, so they're stoking that divide by talking about how divisive the other side is, and in doing so, are the ones who are divisive.
Yeah, and there'll be people
Inception.
that are like, I like National, and National's my team, and I'm always voting National, and I don't like communists.
Marxists.
And
it's
for
Marxists
them,
now. That's what we get on Twitter. It's Marxists.
Oh, good. Yes. And they'll just stick to repeating that myth, that lie. It's not backed up by anything.
Yeah.
Show me that National's better for the economy, and I guarantee you they'll turn around and they'll show that the massive growth under the Key government with no context. And the context was one of our major cities got smashed and we had to rebuild it. And you know what that looks like? That looks a lot like growth. It's not real growth. It's just fake recovery growth. I think around this question of the economy, there was a question that was posed to them about productivity in this country. We've got very low productivity. A big part of that is because we make each other rich by selling old houses to each other.
Yeah.
We don't actually make anything. The rural sector is productive, but outside of that, like a lot of our major businesses are overseas franchises. We're pumping money overseas. We don't do it for ourselves. So, I mean, neither of them had a really good answer for that. They talked about R&D and marketing ourselves overseas.
Yeah.
But they're not talking about building. And we have an opportunity here as we transition into a drastically different climate to build shit, to build those new industries. And neither one of them touched on it.
Yeah. Excuse my my distraction there for a minute. Our numbers just dropped by about 40% like that. And I just wondered, God, have we just been blocked on something again? But it doesn't seem to be. It might just be an anomaly. I tell you what, you can remember, most people can remember the Show Me the Money comment, John Key at the press debate, probably 2011, was it maybe? This will be the comment that gets played for the next 20 years from this election cycle, I think.
Said ruling out Winston Peters was an example of leadership. Why haven't you shown any?
We have said to you very clearly, I want New Zealanders to understand we're going to be a government that governs for them and actually gets things done, Chris. That's something you haven't delivered.
Was this
we want a strong two-party coalition arrangement with National and ACT. And as I said, I'll pick up the phone with New Zealand First in order to avoid the chaos that will ensue with Labour to Party.
The real chaos would be you trying to deal with Winston Peters and David Seymour around a cabinet table. They'd be running circles around you.
No disrespect, Chris. You haven't been able to manage your own cabinet. You lost 5 cabinet ministers in this year alone.
I've set very very high standards for ministers,
Only when
and
the
when they
media
don't
come
meet
to you
them,
and
they
then you-
don't continue in their jobs.
Yeah, but you've had 5 cabinet ministers go and depart under your leadership.
I think
I'm pausing this before the hit comes, because at this point I was going, from a political point of view, that's a pretty good strike from Mr. Luxon. Like, honestly,
Yep.
it's a pretty good angle from Mr. Luxon. But it's like, sporting analogy, the bowler bowls the perfect ball, but somehow, even though it's the perfect ball, the batsman still hits the six.
You've had 5 cabinet ministers go and depart under your leadership.
I think people
And
in
by the
glass
time you throw-
houses shouldn't be throwing stones.
the time
None of my MPs beat people up with a bed leg.
There you go.
Look at that face.
yeah.
Look at their faces, Pat.
Yeah.
That is a happy chippy who knows he's hit a winner. And that is a, oh, fuck, I've got nothing from Luxon.
And whether that's actually, I noticed some Twitters around there. Oh, there's one from Judith Collins, stepped her way out of her coffin into the thing. None of my MPs says this texter, Aaron Darman. Judith Collins, what a pathetic and vile comment from a Prime Minister. What? To remind people that you've got someone who's committed a pretty violent offence, who tried to say, couldn't quite remember whether to use a bed leg against a 16-year-old or not. Sorry.
Do you know what word she couldn't use there?
What's that?
Untrue.
Yes.
That was an untrue comment.
So that will be going around the internet. I've already seen people clip it, and there'll be 8,000 to 10,000 views on Twitter already. I wonder if TVNZ. I wonder if TVNZ will get all those ones pulled down. I wonder if that'll happen.
Simon O'Connor responded to that one as well.
Right.
I saw that because Tova smacked him down for it. See if I can track it down.
So anyway, probably sometimes in a debate, it's not the policy or the politics or whatever that is the memorable thing. Sometimes there's a line, like the "show me the money" line. That line there is the line, and it's a. I remember I worked for what is now NZME, and I was working at News Talk ZB, and in Radio Sport was Tony Veach, right? And Tony Veach was working for Radio Sport when all the not allegations, but the facts came out about that he'd assaulted his wife and she'd got a broken back and this kind of stuff. It all came out. And what happened was he got let go and, all sorts of stuff around that. And then he came back and did some part-time stuff. And I can remember a conversation where there was a Radio Sport host talking about someone coming back to the Warriors who had been convicted of an assault. And the radio host sports position was, once they've done that, they should not be allowed back on the team again. And so, of course, what happened then was a flood of calls from going, excuse me, do you realise there's someone in your team who's done exactly what you're saying shouldn't be getting done and let back on? So you lose all credibility. So if there are issues, policy, legislation around violence around teenagers, for example, it's going to be very hard for National to sell that with Sam Uffindell sitting in the cabinet or certainly in a senior position, because no matter what they say about he's done his time, there is no remorse and no recognition there publicly, at least anyway, that we've seen. So it's going to be very hard for them to be able to be authentic, shall we say, with those kinds of issues if that person is sitting around the cabinet table.
Just a comment here from Twitch, maybe a little bit of context there. Chippy was referring to the fact that National candidate Sam Uffindell was expelled from a pretty prestigious school for hazing, assaulting a much younger student. That National did a report into it, which they promised to release, and then they just went away. Just don't even worry about it. I found Tova O'Brien and Simon O'Connor's interaction. I didn't realize that actually there were two of them. Oh no, it's Chris. No, it's two different people. Never mind. Chris Pink. I was wondering how quickly Hipkins would go negative, and now we know. Tova O'Brien comes in with a lol. That's rich. And then her shocked gasp. Clutched pearls that Chris Hipkins has brought up the bed leg. I think that's a win.
Yeah,
I think
and
that's an absolute win.
Look, it's also interesting, and I've got the article here that I was going to show at some stage because we haven't actually talked about this yet. This came up in the debate about going negative, and this is this line that they're trying to sell, National's trying to sell. By the way, I think we're down on Facebook. I think that's what's happened. I've just got a message from someone saying the feed on Facebook disappeared. I don't know, guys, if we've been taken down or not. I don't know. I apologize. So that big number drop is obviously something that happened. Is that there's been some research coming out around negativity. You know, this has been one of the attack lines of National, and Luxon used it in the debate tonight about the negativity that they accused Labor of doing. Chris Hipkins' COVID test last weekend wasn't the only positive thing coming out of the Labor election campaign, according to the latest results from the New Zealand social media study. More than 1,550 Facebook posts by political parties and their leaders have been analysed by a team from Victoria University of Wellington, with National proving to be far more negative than Labor during this election campaign so far. When subtracting negative posts from positive posts between September 11 to 24, 63% of Labor's Facebook posts included positive self-presentation. Meanwhile, just 5.5% of Nationals are positive. These results are not unexpected given Labor is the incumbent and National is wanting to change the government, says Dr. Moana Krul, who is leading the study. So this study done by academics say that, what does that mean? 94.5% of posts by National were negative or had negative connotations, and only 37% of Labor's were. So this whole narrative, this whole bullshit lie they've talked about going negative, being negative, going negative, it's not the case. But it gets repeated, it gets repeated, it gets repeated, and then it gets believed. There's that old adage that lies will go around the world 3 times before truth gets its pants on. That's the example.
Just checked on Facebook, and yes, there's a tab there that says your video is blocked and can't be viewed by others. So that's fun. Yeah, that's something we'll need to investigate.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I will put up a post on the Facebook page pointing people at Twitch. What a pain in the ass.
I was talking to Bomber the other day, and something's happened with his Facebook feed as well. Like his show, it got taken down or blocked or something like that. I don't know, guys. Go see us on Twitch or so the numbers dropped by about 40%. I saw that happen, so I can't do anything about it now. Have to have a look afterwards. And this whole episode, if you've watched us on Facebook, will be up after we're finished on YouTube. So there we go. Yeah, well, maybe it is people reporting like this is what people are saying. People reporting, but reporting what? I mean, we're definitely not in breach of any copyright now. We're even following along with rules that I don't agree with about copyright to make sure we're not in breach of copyright. Speaking of, let us go and have a look at some more conversations around from the big debate tonight. And one of the ones I wanted to show was the quickfire answer, because they did quickfire answers the first time around. And when they did them first time around, one of our takeaways was how similar they are, how similar the Chris's are, and how different really is National from Labor when it gets to most of politics. We know that they vote together 70% of the time, and I think it might be interesting to show you guys once again, if you haven't seen it yet, the first part of the quickfire rounds from the TVNZ website.
I'll move on to quickfire questions now, and I'll start off with you, Chris Hipkins. Fees free for tertiary students, yes or no?
Yes.
Despite Labor's misinformation, yes.
Voting age at 16?
For local government elections, yes.
What about for our elections?
I personally support that, but I recognise that we don't have the numbers to be able to do that.
Never happen.
No, you've got to draw the line somewhere. 18's fine.
Should parents be fined if their kids don't turn up to school?
In theory, yes, but in reality, it doesn't actually change kids' attendance patterns.
Yes
should use the remedies that are available. That does include fines. So
all right, we'll go for yes and no. We'll try really hard. Should greyhound racing be banned, Chris Hipkins?
Interesting.
Yes, there's a review coming, and I think that would be the
really
place to be.
That.
But that's interesting, because I wonder how that'll go with Winston. You know, like, I mean, he's in the horse racing, but a lot of the horse racing industry will probably be a part of the greyhound racing industry as well. So we'll be seeing.
Assuming you get the call up, would you go to China in the first 6 months of your prime ministerialship?
Yes, I made a commitment last time I was in China that I would come back as soon as I could.
Chris Luxon?
Yes, I want to be circulating globally quickly. Yep.
And how often do you text the Australian Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese?
Generally when there's a reason.
This is a strange
so we had a
question.
conversation this week about the situation in Israel.
And for you, Chris Luxon, have you been texting him? Do you have his number?
Well, I do have his number because I know him well from my previous life. And so, so I do have his number, and I have talked to him when he was over here last time.
Texting him?
Not texting him, no.
Picking up the phone. Are you more of a caller or are you a texter?
I'm a verbal guy, and so I can get stuck on a phone for a long time talking.
I'm a verbal guy, whatever that means. I guess what it means is
it means
text.
As a telecommunications expert, it means that he has fat and uncoordinated thumbs.
So do I. I don't mind texting. Actually, no,
yeah,
I
but
prefer
you're
to
not
talk
prime
on the phone.
minister. You're not trying to be prime minister, Pat.
Yeah.
I want a prime minister with agile, streamlined thumbs with the texting ability of a 14-year-old.
So, no, I mean, like, just again, that really just showed me that they're very similar in lots of areas, which is why, as we've been saying all along, that it's going to be ACT and the Greens who will be driving whatever government this is. They will be the point of difference. I guess ACT and New Zealand First, and then the Greens on the other side, should they be able to get there, who are going to be driving this government, whichever government does get in. Won't be these guys, because these guys are... There is a big Venn diagram which National and Labour certainly cross over in.
Yeah, they're all fighting over the centre, and they're all trying to do it in the most neoliberal way possible. And I think that's what someone like me finds really, really, really disappointing. I think, quickfire questions annoy the shit out of me because they're always so facile. I actually thought that Hipkins did a better job of moderating this than Jessica did at times. Really holding Luxon to his questions. The first one, I think the very first thing I tweeted out as I watched this is Luxon tried to state his credentials, I guess, by someone that had made big changes and taken businesses forward and that sort of thing. And of course, the most recent one is Air New Zealand, which is something you can look into.
Was he involved with Air New Zealand? I hadn't heard that before.
Yeah, it's new information. It's just come out. But yeah, I mean, he hasn't got a reputation of someone that came in and turned Air New Zealand around.
No.
He was a rip and dip. He was in there, and he outsourced a lot of work to foreign multinationals. He didn't keep it in the country. He sacked a whole lot of people. It's just like, if you're going to get in there, like, that was a missed opportunity to sort of jump on him there and go, okay, yeah, but what have you done? You're not Rob Fife.
And my understanding is he left the company with quite a bit of debt in it as well.
Yeah.
Or he left losing money. Sorry to interrupt again about this, but I don't know what's going on with Facebook, because on my feed, we're still there. This is still going. Look, 1, 2, 3, we're still going. We're still up there. There you go. That's now us watching us, because I've just put it up on there. Inception.
That's some good content.
So I have no idea. I wonder if it's a glitch on Facebook rather than anything we've done. But I'm sorry if it's.
I mean, I wonder if Facebook's just been really slow at implementing TVNZ's request.
Well, it's still playing, though. It's still live streaming on mine. I can still see it, so we'll see what happens. Let's go to one other part of the debate, which we're going to watch, and then that'll be it, which is talking about cutting benefits. And I thought this was quite a strong interaction from Chippy. They got into talking about benefits and who's going to get what and how much. And this is, again, remember the question from last night that we looked at. Mr. Luxon, how much will beneficiaries get? Will they get more under you guys or more under Labour? That almost exact question came up again today, and again, didn't get answered. Let's have a look at about 2 minutes of this.
You do want to make some changes. Advisory group after advisory group have said that it's fairer to link benefits to wages. You don't want to do that. You want to effectively cut $500 million a year, $2 billion over 4 years. Isn't that taking money away from beneficiaries?
No, we're going to increase benefits each and every year.
Thousands more children in poverty.
Hang on, let me finish.
Thousands more children in poverty.
Chris, what's thousands of more people? It's putting 60,000 more people.
This is strong by Chippy, and in fact, at some stage shortly, he actually takes control of the narrative, and Luxon stops talking.
On unemployment
Thousands
benefit
more children in poverty because of your $2 billion in benefit cuts. Why won't you actually answer questions on it? I know why you won't answer questions on it, because here's two numbers that New Zealanders should remember. $2,000 a year.
Excellent.
Our lowest income households would lose $2,000 a year under Christopher Luxon's plan. And here's the other number that New Zealanders should remember. 300 mega landlords, that's landlords that have millions and millions of dollars in properties, they would get $1 million each in tax cuts. I think that shows that your moral compass is entirely wrong. You want to take from the people who have the least to give to the people who have.
Here we go again, giving facts and figures that are inconvenient. Here we go again. We don't want to hear this. Here we go again. This is not helping my cause. And this is where you have to calm down. This was probably the strongest that Chippy was in the whole debate, I think. And this, remember, I'll say it again, this was Luxon's question, and Chippy took over, and there's no pushback from the numbers. No pushback at all.
What's your response to that, Chris?
I think but in saying that also...
this is a beneficiary, or a person who works with the beneficiary now, and she actually almost derailed it by coming in with this question, because it stops, but Chippy then gets back on point and finishes it really, really strongly.
Labour hasn't done anything to eliminate it at all.
And the question from Agnes there is Labour haven't done enough. And doesn't she have a point there? Because you had a once-in-a-generation opportunity.
The focus has been taken off Luxon, and I thought, oh gosh, we don't want to see this. But he brings it back quite well.
Still living in severe poverty. Is that good enough?
No, it's not, and our job is not done. We've lifted 77,000 children out of poverty, and I will not stop until we've lifted all of those children out of poverty.
But there are still 144,000 children living in severe income poverty.
And there's more work to be done. We have to lift those children out of poverty, but we're not going to do that by cutting benefits. That is what the National Party are proposing to do. $2,000 per year per household.
Back on
you
message.
are going to cut. No, it's absolutely true.
It is, I mean, here Chris goes again, right? And misinformation. We are not cutting benefits. We are increasing benefits each and every year.
So what do you think the difference is between what we would give them and what we would give them?
We're basing it off making sure that people are protected by the cost of living and inflation.
So where do the $2 billion in cuts come from?
They're not cuts, Chris. We're increasing benefits each and every year.
$2 billion is currently budgeted that you're going to cut. That is a cut.
Mate, listen, look, you need to listen to Taylor Swift when she says, I need you to calm down, right? That's really important. You've got to listen to
I'm not going to calm down about you cutting benefits to give landlords who have plenty tax breaks.
Chris, you need
300 landlords do not need $1 million in tax breaks. People who are living on benefits, you're going to put thousands more children in poverty. Your moral compass is gone.
And listen, please, okay? You need to listen and be respectful.
All right.
So there you go. That was really, really strong from Christopher Hipkins. And I think the reason that Luxon couldn't hit back or didn't hit back was, how can you? Now, I guess for clarity, we should probably say when Luxon says we're not cutting, is a technicality that's true. They're not going to go from $500 a week to $499 a week, but they're going to be increasing it disproportionately. So people are going to be going backwards. And they have announced cuts from that area. Because remember, there's a 6.5% saving have to be made from each of these departments. So there are cuts coming for the departments or for the way that working incomes works, but not to the people. But they're going to be disproportionately worse off every single year, which is why I think the number was $17,000 per annum for the disabled after 4 years. And it doesn't mean they're going to go backwards 17,000. It means the disparity between what Labour would give them and what National will give them will be that figure. Chewy.
It's weasel words. It's absolutely weasel words. He can go, no, we're going to increase it every year. But we're going to increase it in a different, unrecommended and ineffective way. But there's an increase every year. It's just absolute bullshit. I thought that moment from Chippy was his most dominant. And I also want to say, I think that woman's name was Agnes.
Yep.
I want to say good on her. Like every time that they've had these debates, they've pulled out man on the street, for lack of a better word, and used them essentially as here's a real person, and you're just used as a prop. I love that the prop has gone, well, hang on, I'm not saying Labor's done a great job either. We want whoever is in government to do better. And I say good job to Agnes there. I'm guessing you're looking at my text message that I just sent you. Yeah. So looks like Facebook's flagged some audio and video for copyright.
So that'll be thanks to TVNZ.
Yeah.
All right. Hi guys. Kia ora whanau. Welcome back. So we're now with all the young guys. We're on Twitch, and after this, we're going to play some Fortnite, and then okay, let's get into. I think that here's the question: will this make any difference? If there are people who are yet to decide to vote, will this make a difference? Is this going to change the needle at all, or are we in the same place we were a day ago, a week ago, a month ago, Chewy?
It's so hard to say, right? Because I don't have anyone like that in my orbit. I don't know of anyone that's sort of umming and ahhing at this point, and that's just my echo chamber. That's my rage bucket. Is that most of the people that I know and talk to are politically active. I mean, I was speaking to a younger colleague of mine about whether she had voted, and she goes, "No, I haven't voted yet." And I was like, "Are you going to vote?" And she goes, "Oh, I'm definitely going to vote." And then with great glee, she came out later and she goes, "I did one of those political compass things that you said." And I was like, "Oh, and who did you get?" And she goes, "You're not going to like it." And I was like, "Yeah, but who did you get? Was it ACT?" And she just looked at me and I was like, "Oh, you cold-hearted evil bitch." And I said, "No, look, in all seriousness, yes, I would prefer that you voted for a different party. But the main takeaway here is that I want you to vote. Just go and do it. If you think that that's the right choice for you, sure. We can disagree. I know you're not a horrible person. You've just been misled and radicalized by the vote compass, and not by me, which is personally hurtful. And I, you can think about that. But the important thing is to vote. One of the arguments that I saw is like Winston's going to get at least 5% of the vote. The more people that vote for anybody apart from Winston, it makes it harder for him to get in. So there's that. But yeah, would this debate convince someone if they were just sitting there going, "Well, you know what, I'm gonna leave it to the last minute because you never know what's going to happen." Yeah, look, I think Hipkins did better. I think he had better answers. I think he put Luxon on the ropes, if we're going to use another sporting analogy.
Well done. I'm proud of you.
But yeah.
Look, I always wonder about that 10% undecided. I wonder if they are probably decided. They just don't want to tell a pollster. 9% now. In the Guardian poll, it said 3%. We'll see. Look, it's going to be close. Get out and vote. And speaking of Saturday as well, I haven't said this yet, but for those of you who are patrons, I've sent out a link to you all, except for Chris, who joined up this afternoon. I will send one to you as well, to come and have a meetup on Saturday morning. A virtual meetup. It's online. It's 11 a.m. If you're a patron to what we do, then most important thing you do on Saturday is vote, if you haven't done it beforehand. The second most important thing you do is come say good day at 11 o'clock. Between 11 and 11:30, we'll catch up on Zoom and have a bit of a chat about life, the universe, and everything. So patrons, it's in your inbox. If you've got time and you want to come and say good day, we will see you on Saturday morning. Let's get into a couple of other things. I want to have a look at a preferred deputy prime minister. I think it's NewsHub. Yep, NewsHub did a bit of polling over the last week. One of the questions they asked was if the Deputy Prime Minister was going to come from one of the minor parties, who would you want the Deputy Prime Minister to be? Let's have a look, shall we?
In our latest NewsHub Read Research poll, we asked if the right bloc wins the election, who from the minor parties would you prefer as Deputy Prime Minister? ACT leader David Seymour's well ahead on 45.7%.
I don't know why they didn't just say who do you want as Prime Minister, because that means Nicola Willis is in the play. Because I think Nicola Willis should be probably Deputy Prime Minister if they win, but they said from the minor parties.
With Winston Peters trailing well behind on 27.3%. The rest said neither or didn't know.
Who do you reckon would make a better Deputy Prime Minister, you or Winston Peters?
Well, again, it's up to the voters and we'll find out on
you know what, I'm getting sick of that, because it's actually not up to the voters, David. It's actually up to the Prime Minister. So can we please not just be...
Also not the question.
No.
Who do you think?
Yeah. And it's
such an easy... It's a gimme. Yes, me. Just answer it and move on.
He had a really good answer one time when they asked him would he like to be Deputy Prime Minister. He said, I would rather have like his position, whatever it was, on government than to get that. So he didn't say no, I wouldn't. And he didn't say yes, I would. He'd said what's most important to him is, I guess, his agenda, which was quite a good answer, political answer at least anyway.
Today, again,
Peters or Seymour? It's a binary choice, Peters or Seymour.
Yes, and again, we're not getting into that because we have an election to win over the next 2.5 days.
We also asked the same question for the other side. If the left bloc wins the election, who from the minor parties would you prefer as Deputy Prime Minister? Greens co-leader James Shaw is a clear favourite on 38.9%, followed by his co-leader Marama Davidson way down on 15.7%. Te Pāti Māori co-leaders Rauri Waititi and Debbie Ngārewa-Paka are on 5.9% and 5.7% respectively. Nearly 20% said none of them.
What are your thoughts?
I mean...
James Shaw comes across, we talked about this the other day, as sort of a more moderate, sort of more steady hands, and it's like Marama is the energy and the fire. I wonder if people look at Shaw and think, oh, he's more like what an accountant would be, like boring and mundane and whatever. But I mean, someone's got to say it. He's also the only non-brown one. I wonder if that's got a part to play in this. You would hope that wouldn't be on the
I hope not
on the left, but you know, someone's got to ask the question.
Yeah, look, I'd love James Shaw to get some wins. You know, like I just feel like he has been banging against the wall of, you know, being the Minister for Climate and that sort of thing, and just going, here's all the evidence, this is what we should do, I'm the Minister of Climate, James Shaw, and everybody going, yeah, sure, James, shut up. He maybe if he was Deputy Prime Minister, he'd be able to swing a bigger bat. But part of me just absolutely wants Rawiri there. I absolutely wants him there.
Part of the debate, they did talk a bit about, you know, ruling in or out Winston again. And even though I've been saying never trust Winston, he could go both ways. It just sounds like Hipkins has said there's absolutely no way. And it was brought up in the debate, I'm sure you guys all heard it, that when Judith Collins was sitting in the debate 3 years ago, she said she'd rather sit on the crossbenches than to work with Winston. And that's sort of what Chippy has said. Now, I mean, political good, political bad decision, I don't know, but it seems like that's the decision that they've made, Chewy. And so, yeah, I will say now as well, there's no chance that... So basically what it means now is, should there be that balance of power that Winston can go both ways, he'll only go one way, or he'll go no ways, and he'll sit across the benches and it will be an absolute shit show. Many people, including lots of right-wing commentators who were some on Bomber's show last night, are saying that the National Act government with Winston will be the worst government this country's ever seen. So I guess what we're saying, folks, is see you in 3 years, should that happen.
Yeah, look, I said this to my partner as we're watching the debate, is like, if he gets in and Winston does what Winston does, which is just absolutely so chaos, it'll mean that Luxon's a one-term prime minister. Maybe, you know, his last tilt at being a leader, because this is 100% his fault. As we've spoken about this week, if he had the courage and the belief in his own numbers and the belief in his own words that he was going to win that election, then he wouldn't have bothered. He didn't even have to mention Winston. You know, and if he'd done that, I think Winston will still be polling down with the kooks, because there was no path to him being a coalition partner until Luxon said, well, maybe there's a path for him to be a coalition. And then it was all on. He absolutely cannibalized Axe market share. Seymour's got to know that. You know, we've seen how dejected Seymour is over the whole thing.
And
it's all Luxon.
They put this up there as well. Because let's just talk about this for a sec. If the left get a couple of seats and RAF gets in, we could see a Labour, Greens, Pāti Māori top. I feel like, and I want to challenge myself here because I could be wrong, so let me get through this. I was thinking about when we've talked about RAF has ruled out Labor. But if I'm being generous, it seems that RAF has ruled out Labor because, his words, there's no path to power. Now, I'm still like, well, that's pretty gross. That means all that talks about is getting into government, where all they've been promising us for the whole time is getting into Parliament. But I guess it's probably, if I'm being generous, if Labour, Green, Te Pāti Māori could get up between 58, 59 seats and Top had 2, he hasn't said he wouldn't work with them. What he said is there's no way that they'll get to that position. That's why he's interested in national only. I've been questioning that over the last couple of days because we've talked to Raf 3 times. Well, I've talked to him 3 times. I think me and you, Chewy, have talked to him twice. And at the start, it was like, I will go with no one. I will sit across benches. At the second meeting, it was I could go with anyone or I could sit across the benches. At the third meeting, it was I can go with national. And the only reason for going with national, you can go look up our clips. We mentioned to him as well. I asked him the question, but what if Labour gave you a path to get into Parliament? He said, no, I wouldn't take that. And which makes no sense to me because he's been saying top main priority is to get into Parliament. But if Labour offered him a path to Parliament and he said no, that says to me that maybe what he actually just wants to get is into government. So he said no to Labour. Should Labour get in a position where they could get into government, then I guess he might be available again. But again, would Labour want to work with him? I don't know. I mean, to me, when we spoke last time, and I'm trying to be generous, you can correct me, Chewy, or agree or disagree with me. He was basically saying, I'm not interested in Labour anymore. That's how it came across to me. What was it for you?
Yeah, there was a few people that disagreed with you there. I don't think I'm one of them. He just did not seem to see a place for him with Labour, and I think I agree with Mr. Anderson there. Like the Top did have a lot of policies that appealed to the left. I think they're literally a centrist party. I wasn't interested in them for that view, but they had some good ideas. But the good ideas that they had, they needed to be able to convince someone else to run with them, and they'd never be in a position. The policies that I liked, if they were in a coalition with National, they wouldn't run with them. They absolutely wouldn't run with them. It's not their bag. I kind of think, and again, we've had Raf on the show. I've heard him speak. I like him, but in the past couple of weeks, he's kind of done some weird things. I don't know if you've seen this story from today, Pat. Top leader claims National Labour have pulled back in Ilam. Leader of the Opportunities Party claims the 2 big parties have pulled back in the Christchurch seat of Ilam, paving the way for him to get into Parliament. Now, it's not backed up by anything.
Wow.
It's just.
Okay. So you know what that is. That's him basically saying, so you should all vote for me now in Ilam. That's what that is.
Yeah, which seems a weird.
There's no way that Labour will be pulling back when he has apparently hitched his carriage to National. Labour's not going to pull back. In fact, Labour will be happy if they do split that vote and help keep him out because of that. Because he is, and I'm saying what I think, what I've observed. I've observed him basically going all in with National. Labour will be doing the opposite. They'll be actively wanting him to lose now. Whereas if he had still been a centrist, they wouldn't be thinking that way, but they will be thinking that way now.
And there's absolutely no reason for National to take their foot off the gas. Not when the leader is saying the only voters are vote for National. Party vote National. Candidate vote National. It struck me as someone like dropping a metal bucket down a stairwell as far as a statement to make.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting. Hey, I got a couple of things from the debate that I tweeted out about, which I'll share with us all now, because there was a couple of comments that I found particularly interesting. Christopher Luxon at one stage says, I want to commercialise it. Jessica said, what does that mean? And I've written what I think the response is actually. What it means is privatisation. He didn't say that. He uses different words, but I want to commercialise it means I want to privatise it. That didn't come out, but it was interesting how it was a part of his theme. Because the other line that he used again and again and again and again is, we're going to fund this in a different way. That was talking about Three Waters and the pipes. We're going to fund this in a different way. And then obviously I just used this other line he says all the time. What I'm saying to you is, privatisation and PPPs. We're going to fund this in a different way, means debt to local councils, failing local councils, moving into private partnerships, private-public partnerships, i.e. privatising. That's the way I hear that and read that. What about you, Chewie?
I heard Belt and Road. I heard China's money, loud and clear.
Fair enough, yeah.
Like, and as far as Luxon goes, you know, National, the party of the economy, the only guys that know how to do it, as far as China goes, China's the money tree down the backyard. Like, he seems to have stacked so much hope on that. And for anyone that has read up on this program, it has serious ramifications. And China's economy is on a kind of a precipice at the moment. Precipice. That's the word I was trying to use. $5 word. Precipice. I think the things that he has stacked up there, you know, I've used this term a bit this week, wishy thinking. It's not reasoned, it's not researched, it's not planned out, it's not budgeted for, it's just wishy thinking. Trust me, it'll all work out. Strap in, vote for change, and we'll see what happens. It's all not how to run a country.
A couple of extra little clips, and the last one is really important because we've been asked questions about a second election, etc. Mai Chen, who's a constitutional lawyer, was on the AM show this morning. It's a 2 or 3 minute clip, but it's all explained. So I'll play that for you, the very last thing we're going to do. This is the clip that I was referring to earlier, where News Hub did some polling based around what bloc, left or right, do you trust more? And I was a bit shocked by this.
In the News Hub Leaders debate, both leaders were asked, is Winston Peters good or bad for the country?
Chris Hipkins.
Bad. I don't know him, Paddy. I don't know him well.
Everybody knows him. It's Winston Peters.
So we put it to the people in our latest News Hub Read Research poll. 46.9% said Winston Peters was bad for the country, while 34.1% thought he was good. 19% picked Luxon's answer, don't know.
So if you have a look at those numbers, right, National's on maybe 35% at the moment. You know, let's say that you get to 40 or 41 or 42% if you're in combined National and New Zealand First, based on polling. That means there are plenty of people within that voting thing who still don't think he would be good for New Zealand, who think he's bad for New Zealand, statistically speaking, because only 1 in 3 people are saying good. 1 in 2, man, think bad. That's and it's not just like, you know, good or bad politician or a divisive person. It's like good or bad for New Zealand. And half of the people say bad for New Zealand. That means for everyone in every aspect of life, everywhere, for all of New Zealand.
10% picked Luxon's answer, don't know.
Is he good or bad?
I'm very confident I'll be able to do business with him if I need to do so.
Is he good or is he bad?
I'm very confident I'll be able to do business with him.
Do you still think he's bad for New Zealand?
Yes, I do. The man himself.
Winston Peters, good for the country or bad for the country?
Who asked that question?
Just from Jenna Lynch.
Tell Jenna, go and get lunch.
Chris Hipkins is focused on fear.
I'm a misogynist.
Campaign, fear of the other side, fear of chaos.
I believe that a government involving Christopher Luxon, David Seymour and Winston Peters would be dysfunctional and it would take New Zealand backwards.
Our poll reveals he's not winning that argument with vote.
There you go. So we'll stop it there. Which option do you think would be a more stable government? ACT, National, New Zealand First. 48.8% of people think that would be a stable government. Labour, Green to Party Māori, 41.4%. I honestly, watching high fives in debates, watching how the left get on, like stable government, I guess you could argue even if they hate each other, are they going to run the country well? Maybe, but watching ACT and New Zealand First together, fighting with each other, National pleading people not to vote for Winston Peters after they've ruled him in, I'll admit this is my echo chamber maybe hitting out at me. I don't get that, Chewie. I don't get that at all.
No, neither. Fully in the echo chamber here. But I would love to say, hey, look, objectively, are you smoking crack? Is that what? Are you chasing the dragon? Is it the heroin talking? Like, how can you look at that when you have ACT and New Zealand First basically having fisticuffs over who's a bigger shitbag?
Yeah.
And as you said, Party Māori and Greens doing high fives and doing tag team wrestling moves on Winston.
Like, I guess the only way
are you kidding?
The only way the respondents can think about that idea of stability is they're not looking at how the personalities get together. That can be the only way, because if you look at those, obviously those on the left would be more stable, but if you're ignoring their personalities as people and how they carry themselves and going, how would it work at a cabinet table, maybe that's their only justification. I mean, I still don't see that, but that would be the only way you could think that someone could get there. Certainly not by how they work with each other and talk to each other and, abuse each other.
Yeah.
All right.
Unhinged.
Okay. Let's have a look at this.
Pat.
This is the last thing for you before we head off to election. Mai Chen was in with the AM show, and they had actually a really interesting conversation, and you guys were asking this, so we found it for you, as to what happens to form a government and how does it go to that point of needing a second election? Constitutional lawyer.
So when might we have a new government to run this country, and who's in charge in the meantime? If no party has an outright majority, then leaders must do deals to form a government, and that means likely Luxon on these numbers, calling Winston, calling Seymour, but with a by-election due on November the 25th, there are fears this thing could drag on until Christmas. Constitutional law expert and barrister Mai Chen is with us this morning to break it down. Good morning.
Morena.
Thank you for being here. So first of all, if there's a hung parliament, which is looking very likely, and no leader has a majority, how long is there a time frame before which they need to form a government?
This is really interesting. So this is how a second election would get called if they couldn't do it. But I wasn't aware of the time frame, but there's a time frame that they have to form a government by, according to our constitution.
Yes, I'm feeling extremely calm. The reason is because we have a very sound constitutional system that caters for all of these issues. And there is a timetable, and it says that within 6 weeks of the return of the writs, which is the 9th of November, Parliament needs to reconvene. It needs to be re-established. So that's by the 21st of December. Now, by then, most of us will be doing our Christmas shopping, but we will not be thinking about politics. But they have until that time to get themselves sorted. But look, let's be honest. In general, it's taken 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Once it took 9 weeks, and I think there was a bit of a Winston factor there.
That was the first time.
And then, of course, there was once when it only took 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So what that basically means, I think, Joey, basically, is if they can't form a government by the 21st of December, then probably automatically it goes to a second election. And if it went to a second election, there would be a bloodbath, I think, for some political parties. Maybe ACT would almost disappear because, they have to make this work. If the right has the path, then they have to make this work. So I don't think there's going to be a second election, but we still learn about how it happens, if it happens.
But if they are in a situation where National and ACT together are on 60 seats, for example, and they are desperately wanting that by-election seat from November the 25th to get to 61 to form a government without needing Winston, though they might still use him, whatever, that could drag on. Do they, when they meet back in Parliament on the 21st of December, do they have to have a government at that point, or do they just need to sit in the House?
No, they need to have formed a government. It's at the moment, if we have no clear result on election night, there's a caretaker government. So Chris Hipkins will continue with his current government. They need to keep the ship of state on course. It can't be off course. They can't take any major decisions. If there's a crisis, they should consult all sides. But the reality is that is the role of the Governor-General. Dame Cindy Kiro has done an amazing job, but she has a very important job constitutionally. She is the referee or the umpire, neutral when the constitutional chips are down. And if both parties don't get an outright majority, she can't necessarily just go to the one that got the most votes and say, how's about it, form something. It's up to the politicians to talk to each other and form some sort of alignment or coalition. They need to go to her. They need to convince her. They need to give her evidence that they command the confidence and supply in Parliament. Now, her job is to exercise...
So therefore, if they couldn't convince her, then she can say no government. So, like, imagine that those three right heads were together, and I don't know how exactly it would work, but Winston was kind of like, oh, she'll be right, and the Governor General wasn't convinced, then she has the ability to say this is not a government, which I don't think, again, will ever happen, but it's interesting to hear the role that the head of state's representative plays in our election.
Exercise the discretion at that point and say, I have sufficient evidence that they do have the confidence of Parliament, i.e. the MPs, and therefore I'm saying you as the leader of this coalition
you can get across the line.
Will become Prime Minister and you will form a government.
You'd need Winnie and David and Chris in the back of a taxi up to...
Well, of course, there might be a grand coalition. I mean, there are all sorts of possibilities. But the important point is this. If politicians think that we're going to another election, they should think very hard about why we've never been in this situation again. I don't think any elector will thank them, but I think they will punish them.
Yeah, I don't
do this again.
I don't think anyone was
My
actually
easy vote card has just arrived. That's a shame because I voted last weekend, but they finally found my house.
What are we, 2 days out from election day?
It's all right.
It's not the end of the world, is it? If there was some major constitutional or significant government decision that had to be made, like a lockdown or something to do with the military, if our politicians couldn't agree, who is technically in charge?
So what happens in that case is that we have a caretaker government. So whoever's the incumbent is the caretaker. So that's Chris Hipkins and his team. But he should consult.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, if no one can agree, it's his decision.
It is his decision. Yeah. And remember also that we've had the situation before. We had a situation where Muldoon came, he was on his way out. You'll remember the Longy government came in. They said do X, he said no. And now, of course, we've amended our Constitution Act so that if within a certain number of days, you are going to become a member of Parliament, then you can be sworn in as a minister and go in and do it yourself.
So there you go. So the one thing that I took away from this is when people keep saying, who will be the Prime Minister on Sunday morning? The answer is Chris Hipkins will be the Prime Minister on Sunday morning because they won't have formed a government. So he will technically be, if the right were to win, they will technically be a government in waiting, if you will. And he will be the caretaker.
I did laugh at that. I saw a promo for TVNZ Sunday morning. We'll have a new leader on Sunday, and it's like, no, you won't. There's almost no chance of that happening. five.
Mai Chen says 5 weeks is a pretty standard time because, and like especially with the 25th of November being the date for that by-election, if National and ACT are on 60 seats, which I don't think they will be, but if they are, then they'll just be hankering out to win that. I mean, it seems to be a pretty safe national seat, but I wonder if that's going to turn into a massive fight. Oh, Jacinda comes back and runs in Port Waikato or something like that. I don't know.
And just remember, if there's no government formed in 7 weeks, then under our constitution, the power passes to regional warlords.
Yep. We're the ones for Dunedin. Just so you know.
Just so you know. Just so you know. Yeah.
And we can finally get that grift that everyone keeps accusing us of and have our palms greased by some people. All right,
Pat is Lord Humongous, and I am Immortum Joe.
Lord Less Humongous. We're done, guys. This is the last broadcast before the election. Get out and vote. Take a friend with you. I still firmly believe in the idea that if the left votes, the left can win, and it'll just come down to turnout. We are being told, although I have poo-pooed a little bit the numbers for early voters, but the early voter turnout is less than it has been in 2017, which is a more comparable year to 2020. And the right always does better around the world when there's a poor turnout. Now, I know everyone watching this is going to go and vote and participate, whether you're left or right. So you are the people who need to go and get the flatmate, to get the uncle, the aunt, the parent, the whatever it is, the dog who needs to vote, and get them to the polls because you're all going to do it.
Don't let your dog vote. That's very illegal.
Really? Most dogs would vote left, though, aren't they? Aren't they greenies?
They'll vote for anyone who shows them a bone.
Oh, come on. Doesn't he have that? Come on. Anyway.
Dogs are not politically reliable animals.
Let us
Happy
remind you
is
as well,
solid
please,
comrade.
if you are a patron, then we will see you in Zoom at 11 a.m. on Saturday morning if you want to come here or come wherever you're from, but Zoom into here. It's a meetup. It goes for 30 minutes. If you have never done one, feel free to join us. Happy to chat about whatever. It can be a bit of an AMA and ask me anything. It can be just a chat about what's going on. It can be you guys sharing your thoughts around, this show, this thing. And if you're a patron or you become a patron before midnight on Friday, you will get the email with the link to join up, whether you're a $5 patron or a $250 patron. We're still waiting for one of those, but maybe one day. HOE. So that's us, guys. We're done. Anything you want to leave the whānau with, Chewy? Remember, this will be up on YouTube in about 2 hours' time after I upload the whole thing again. And I don't know what's happening with Facebook, but yay, we've now got a new copyright battle to fight.
I do have an update on that. I just saw a notification from Facebook that TVNZ have released their copyright claim on the Facebook feed right at the end of the show.
So that was probably because it was on from the last lot that they hadn't released. So just good to know. Mm-hmm. Hope that doesn't happen every single time.
If we're talking about politically reliable animals, the capybara is a friend of the people and a comrade to all.
I saw one of those horrible, how people put their pets online and they do the lovely music behind it and that kind of stuff. And, this and love my dog. But the message that came with it was kind of cool. This is a bit of a tangent now. And the message was something like this.
Tangent time.
Your dog is your best friend for a portion of your life, but you are your dog's best friend for their whole life. And I was like, oh, that's quite nice. I quite like that. So... So get your dog out voting. Walk your dog to the polls. There you go.
Actually, I think somebody is running a Twitter thing of
dogs tied up after polling booths.
Dogs at polling booths. So get out there.
Yeah.
I've now disappeared down a rabbit hole of Etsy stores, and somebody is selling stickers of capybaras with "Eat the Rich" underneath it. I think I'm going to get the credit card out. Look, what I want to leave. What I want to leave people with is this: whatever your echo chamber is, it is not going to be a landslide. It is going to be a very, very close election, and with that comes a very dangerous moment where you are so confident that your team is going to win and they don't. There is a lot riding on an election. There's a lot of emotions riding on an election. And I've mentioned this before. I went to a post-election party full of lefties, and it was a bad time when National came in. You have to manage your expectations, and a good way to do that is don't give in to despair if it doesn't go your way. Start planning, start organizing, start working out how you're going to fight for the things that we need to fight for. Keep your people close, and we'll get through it. Whatever happens.
I just checked my email. I haven't had a notification from YouTube, so I'm assuming that has not been released yet. TVNZ got a notification from YouTube at 3:30 this afternoon. They sent me a copy of it because I requested it. That said that they had actioned some stuff. I'm going to email YouTube tonight to see if I can give them a hurry up. I expect we'll be here at 7 p.m, hopefully on YouTube, on election night. I am going to tomorrow email all of the contributors that have come on during this election cycle to the show and say, drop in at some stage. We've already talking to Planner Walk about connecting with Planner Walk and her live stream, and we're already talking to Bomber about connecting him with his live stream, and we're just going to hang out. Not sure exactly how we're going to run the night. We'll just get here at 7 o'clock, see what's going on, get some of the news updates, and hang out with you. I tell you that I don't think there'll be a result on Saturday night, but the only time there's a result on Saturday night is like last time around, when it was like so obvious that they knew what was going to happen and they called it so early. That's not going to happen this time. It will be, even if there is a well-leading party at the end of the night, there's not going to be a government in the next few days. So patrons, we'll see you Saturday at 11 a.m. Check your emails. Go and vote, and then come back and hang out with us on Saturday night from 7 p.m. I'll probably put the live stream up tomorrow, like as in the link to it, because then you can share it around to people as well, and we can let people know where we're going to be and what we're going to be doing. That's if I can get back onto YouTube. And if anything else, cute. If anything else comes of the YouTube thing, I mean, our numbers right now only on Twitch are are within about 30% of what we were doing on YouTube beforehand. So you can get us here as well. I want to be on YouTube, but we'll see what happens on the night. And other than that, I think I'm done for the election cycle, Chewy. I feel like I might sleep all day tomorrow. I can't. I've got work to do.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Rest up. Keep your fluids.
A big thank you to you guys for watching and being a part of what we've been doing. We will be back on Monday night at 9 p.m. for another edition. Who knows what we'll be talking about? I'm thinking maybe talking about Taylor Swift's new album and the All Blacks getting beaten by Ireland on Sunday morning.
I didn't even talk about how fucking cringe that was.
No, stop. Oh yeah, it was terrible, wasn't it? The right can't do jokes.
Cringe.
They can't do jokes. All right, team. That's it. We're done before Chewy can go off on another tangent. We'll see you Saturday night. We might see some of you Saturday morning, and then we'll see you again Monday night for another edition of Big Hairy News. Stay safe. Go vote. Hooroo.
Cheers, fam.